Billionaire CEO met poor nurse after 3 a.m. Wrong call? What happened next changed everything. She wasn't going to answer. It was nearly 3 a.m. Her hands were still shaking from the cold, her eyes heavy after a 14-hour ER shift. But the phone kept ringing, sharp, urgent. Unknown number. "You've got the wrong number," Olivia murmured, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. Silence. Then came a small voice, trembling, breaking. "But Daddy can't breathe." He fell on the floor. "Mommy said to call this number if something bad happened." Olivia jolted upright, her pulse kicked hard in her throat. "Sweetheart, where are you?" "I don't know. Our house is white, with a black fence. There's a red light on the porch." Silence. Olivia stared at the shoes by the door, her coat still damp from earlier. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew a little girl believed she would come. "I'm on my way," she whispered. And she left. No plan, no address. Just a child's faith, and a stranger's breath waiting to be saved. The city never really slept, but Olivia had learned how to pretend it did. She slipped off her scrubs and dropped onto her narrow bed, the scent of antiseptic still clinging to her skin. The cracked window near her feet let in a sting of cold air, but she didn't bother pulling the blanket up. Her bones ached. Her soul did, too. She had just pulled off her surgical mask when the phone rang. She almost didn't pick up, but something, maybe the silence between heartbeats, made her reach. "Wrong number," she said, barely awake. Then the child's voice came. "Daddy's chest hurts. He's on the floor. Mommy said this number was for help." And just like that, Olivia was wide awake. The girl didn't know her address, just pieces. White house, black fence, red light on the porch. Olivia didn't stop to question, didn't even change clothes. She grabbed her emergency kit, keys, and drove blindly, desperately, through the rain. For a stranger. For a voice. She passed house after house, breath fogging the windshield until she saw it. White siding, black iron fence, flickering red light. Her heart sank. She ran to the porch. Knocked. The door creaked open. And there she was. A tiny girl. Barefoot. Eyes wide and wet. "You came," she whispered. Olivia knelt down, breathless. "I told you I would." The girl led her inside. He was there, collapsed on the floor. Pale. Barely breathing. Olivia didn't hesitate. She dropped to her knees, opened her bag, and went to work. Chest compressions. Airway support. Calm, steady voice. She didn't know his name. Didn't know his story. Only that he was fading, and someone had to fight for him. By the time the ambulance lights flashed against the curtains, he was breathing easier. Olivia sat on the edge of the couch, soaked to the skin, watching the rise and fall of his chest. He stirred, barely. "Who are you?" he rasped. She blinked back exhaustion. "I'm a nurse. I got a call. From a little girl." He turned his head slowly, saw her for the first time, and something in his eyes shifted. Upstairs, the child came down, clutching a stuffed rabbit. "I used Mommy's number," she whispered, "the one she left, before she went to the stars." The man closed his eyes, pain flickering across his face. Olivia looked at both of them, grief hanging like fog, and knew this wasn't just a rescue. This was the beginning of something none of them could name yet. Only later, when the EMTs had left and dawn began to hum behind the blinds, the girl pulled at Olivia's sleeve. "Can you stay?" she asked softly. "Just a little longer." And without knowing why, Olivia whispered, "Yeah." She stayed. There's something in this house, in that girl, in that man. Felt like a life waiting to be rescued, too. Chapter 1. Wrong number, right soul. She didn't know the address. Only a white house, a black fence, and a red light on the porch. Olivia drove with her hands clenched tight on the steering wheel, eyes darting from mailbox to mailbox. The rain tapped against the windshield like nervous fingers. Street after street blurred into the dark. Her breath fogged the glass, her scrubs damp from the misty air outside. Then she saw it. The house, just like the little girl described. A white two-story home, its paint chipped from seasons of quiet sorrow, The black iron fence bowed slightly inward like it had taken on too much grief. And on the porch, a flickering red light, like a heartbeat refusing to stop. She pulled over, killed the engine. For a second, she just sat there, heart pounding. What am I doing? She didn't know this family. Didn't even know their names. She should have called 911, should have said no. But something in that child's voice, broken and brave, had cut through her exhaustion. She ran up the steps and knocked. The door creaked open. Standing there was a little girl, no older than 4, barefoot in a faded pajama set with unicorns peeling at the edges. Her dark curls were stuck to her wet cheeks, and in her arms she clutched a worn, stuffed rabbit. "You came," she whispered, almost in disbelief. Olivia crouched down. "I told you I would." The girl stepped aside, and Olivia entered. The house smelled faintly of cinnamon and something older. Something like sadness. Toys were scattered on the floor, a child's drawing taped crookedly to the fridge. And in the living room, on the rug, a man lay collapsed. Mid-30s, strong build, but pale. His breaths came in desperate rasps. His hand clutched his chest like he was holding on to something that didn't want to stay. Olivia dropped to her knees without a word. She opened her emergency bag, her hands moving on instinct. Inhaler, blood pressure cuff, cool compress. She pressed gently at his sternum, feeling the irregular thump. She whispered steady words to a man who couldn't answer. After long minutes, his breathing slowed. His chest finally rose and fell like it was supposed to. Olivia sat back, her hands trembling from adrenaline and rain. She looked up, and for the first time saw him. Sharp jawline, dark lashes, features carved from something once handsome, now weathered by grief. His eyes fluttered open, cloudy with confusion. "Who are you?" he rasped. Olivia exhaled, her voice softer than she meant. "I got a call. A little girl said her dad couldn't breathe. She thought I was someone else, but she believed I could help." He blinked. "You're not from the hospital." She shook her head. "No, just a nurse. I was on my way home." Footsteps padded across the hardwood. The little girl appeared again, this time holding a glass of water in both hands. Olivia reached out, took it gently. "Was it you who called me, sweetie?" The girl nodded slowly. "I used the number Mama wrote before she went to the sky." Noah the man closed his eyes, his hand curled into a loose fist on the floor. "I think she must have had my number before," Olivia whispered. "Phone companies reuse them sometimes." The little girl's lip trembled. "But you answer." Olivia leaned in and tucked a stray curl behind the child's ear. "I did, and I'm so proud of you for calling." Outside, the ambulance sirens approached, humming low like a lullaby wrapped in urgency. As Olivia stood to greet the EMTs, she felt a tiny tug on her shirt. The little girl looked up at her with eyes that had seen too much. "Can you stay, just a little bit?" Olivia hesitated. Her shift had ended hours ago. Her body was screaming for sleep. But she glanced at the man, still catching his breath, and back at the girl. Then she knelt again. "I can stay," she said quietly. "Just a little bit." By the time the EMTs finished checking Noah's vitals, the sky had begun to pale. Noah declined a hospital trip, said he'd follow up in the morning. Olivia gathered her things, but before she could slip on her coat, the girl hugged her knees. Noah tried to speak. "You really didn't have to." But Olivia just shook her head. "Someone called for help," she said, "and I'm not the kind of person who ignores that." She walked to the door, but something in her chest felt different. Heavier, yes, but warmer too. Like maybe, tonight, something found her. Chapter 2. The Man Behind the Silence. The red porch light still flickered when Olivia stepped outside, her coat clinging wet against her skin. The cold nipped at her fingertips, but she didn't move toward her car right away. Inside, through the living room window, she could still see the girl, curled up on the couch, the stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. The man was awake now, sitting up, watching the girl with a kind of quiet that didn't feel indifferent. It felt afraid. She turned back, not because she was needed, but because something about the silence inside that house didn't feel safe to leave behind. The room was dim when she returned. The only light came from the kitchen, soft, golden, unassuming. Noah sat upright on the couch, a blanket over his shoulders. His breathing had stabilized, but his eyes were still shadowed. "You didn't leave," he said, voice low and rough. Olivia shrugged gently, pulling off her wet coat. "Didn't feel right." He didn't speak again for a while, just watched her. "You're not with the hospital," he finally said. "So? Why did you come?" Olivia crossed her arms loosely, voice barely above a whisper. "Because someone needed me. That's usually reason enough." He looked away. Lily stirred in her sleep, a soft whimper escaping her lips. Olivia moved instinctively, kneeling beside the child, adjusting the throw blanket with careful fingers. Noah watched her hands, how gently they moved, how certain. "You're good with her," he said quietly. "I'm used to little ones," she replied. "They're braver than people think." The silence grew again, stretching long between words neither of them could find. Olivia glanced around. The house was tidy but lived in. There were signs of someone once trying, framed photos on the walls, art supplies scattered across the kitchen table, a child's height chart marked along the doorframe. But something was missing. It felt like the house had once been warm, and then someone turned off the heat and never turned it back on. She looked back at him. Noah was staring at nothing, his hand resting on his chest. "You're in pain," she said softly. He didn't argue, just nodded. "It comes and goes." "Tonight?" "It almost didn't go." She nodded back. "You need a proper checkup." "I will," he said. In the morning, a beat passed. Then, "Your daughter," she started. He flinched, just slightly. "Her name is Lily," he said. "She's 4. Beautiful name." It was her mom's favorite flower. Olivia didn't ask more. She didn't have to. The way his eyes lowered told her everything she needed to know. She leaned back against the couch, her legs tucked beneath her. Lily had drifted again into a deep sleep, her breaths slow and steady. "She hasn't spoken to anyone in months," Noah said after a while. Olivia looked at him, surprised. "She talks to me," she said gently. "I know." He gave a faint, almost broken smile. "I don't know how or why. I've tried everything. Therapists, playgroups. Nothing worked." "Maybe," Olivia said slowly, brushing a lock of hair off Lily's forehead. "Maybe she didn't need to be healed. Maybe she just needed to help someone else first." They sat there, two strangers bound by a single night and one small child. No words, no promises. Just the understanding that sometimes connection isn't built by time, but by the silence that two people are finally not afraid to share. Before Olivia left, she tiptoed to the kitchen, scribbled her name and number on a sticky note, and left it on the counter. "If she needs anything, call. Doesn't matter what time." As she reached the front door, she heard his voice, quiet behind her. "Thank you." She turned, hand on the doorknob. "You're welcome," she said. But what she didn't say, what she couldn't say, was that it had been a long time since anyone had looked at her the way that little girl did, like she mattered. And somehow, that night, she felt seen, not as a nurse, not as a stranger, but as someone needed. Chapter 3. The House with the Red Porch Light. Olivia didn't mean to go back, but the sticky note was still stuck to her fridge the next morning, her own handwriting staring back at her. "If she needs anything, call." It wasn't a call that came, though. It was a drawing, slipped under her apartment door in a crumpled envelope. No return address. Just crayon lines and shaky letters. 3 stick figures. One tall, one small, and one in the middle, with yellow hair. "That's you," the child had written. "Me and Daddy are holding your hand, so you don't get lost." She showed up that afternoon with a box of pastries, a new bottle of children's vitamins, and no real reason, just said, "Thought I'd check in." Noah opened the door slower this time, like he wasn't sure whether to expect her or hope for her. "She made you something," he said simply, stepping aside. Inside, Lily was waiting by the couch, holding the same drawing, this time flattened and carefully taped. She pointed to the yellow-haired figure again. "You're in the middle," she whispered, "so you don't get lost." Olivia crouched beside her. "You think I could get lost?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Grown-ups get lost all the time." Noah brewed coffee while Olivia read Lily a story. He stayed quiet in the kitchen, watching. The house felt different now, still hushed, still heavy. But there were small changes. Lily was humming while she colored. The curtains were open. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon again. "Do you want to sit?" Olivia asked when the story ended. Noah shook his head. "I'm not good with small talk." "Me neither," she replied. "So don't talk, just sit." So he did. They sat in silence, watching Lily press stickers into a notebook, the quiet only interrupted by her tiny voice asking for help with a crooked unicorn tail. Later, when Olivia stood to leave, she found a note on the kitchen counter. Her name scribbled in looping pen, written by a different hand. Just one sentence. "Thanks for not getting lost." She folded the note slowly and tucked it into her coat pocket. She didn't say anything. But as she stepped out into the evening air, the red porch light blinked behind her. Not like a warning this time, but like a lighthouse. That night, she lay awake longer than usual. Not because of worry, not because of fear, but because of something quieter. A boy's voice. A girl's laughter, a silence she hadn't known she missed, until it was filled. The next day, she bought a set of crayons. Not for the hospital, not for donation. Just for Lily. Chapter 4. Things that don't add up. The third time she came, Olivia brought warm soup and a children's puzzle. Noah opened the door without hesitation now. He didn't smile, not exactly, but his shoulders eased the moment he saw her. "Hey," he said. "Hey," she returned, brushing raindrops off her sleeves. She didn't need to be invited in anymore. Lily rushed to her with a soft shriek and wrapped both arms around Olivia's legs like she'd been waiting at the window all day. They built the puzzle at the coffee table, the girl giggling every time Olivia pretended to be stumped. Noah watched quietly, sipping coffee from a dark ceramic mug. "You always bring something," he said, not a question. "It's how I was raised," Olivia replied. "You never show up empty-handed, especially when you're not family." His gaze lingered on her then. "You sure about that?" She didn't answer. Later, while searching for a bandage in the hallway bathroom cabinet, Olivia noticed something odd. The drawer glided smoother than any drawer she'd seen. Real oak, custom interior dividers, lined with velvet. She paused. Next to the sink sat a $400 0-cents electric toothbrush. The kind she only ever saw in celebrity dental commercials. The living room rug wasn't from a discount store. It was hand-woven. She could tell by the texture beneath her socks. And in the corner of the hallway, half hidden behind Lily's laundry, a small, framed photograph. Black tie gala, crystal chandelier in the background. Noah, in a suit. A younger Lily in his arms, and a woman beside him, radiant, laughing. Olivia stared. That wasn't a life of quiet grief. That was a life of luxury. So, she didn't say anything that night, but it gnawed at her. Later, in bed, her curiosity got the best of her. She typed his full name into Google, just to be sure. Noah Whitmore, founder and former CEO of Whitmore Technologies. Estimated net worth, over $800 million. Stepped down after the death of his wife, Anna Whitmore, in a highly publicized medical tragedy. Went completely off-grid 2 years ago. No interviews, no sightings. No new ventures? Just vanished. Olivia closed her laptop slowly. It didn't make sense. The man who opened his door in wrinkled clothes, who didn't even have cold medicine in the cabinet, was the same man once photographed next to venture capital giants and White House advisors? Why would he live like this? Why would he let himself disappear? The next day, she didn't go over. Not because she didn't want to, but because now she didn't know what she was walking into. That night, she stood on her balcony with a cup of tea in her hands. Across the street, through the silhouette of bare trees and glowing windows, she saw Lily, standing at the window, pajamas on, waiting, just like before. And suddenly, Olivia didn't care how much money he had. She cared that the girl still believed someone was coming. She crossed the street in slippers and a hoodie, no makeup, no plan. When the door opened, Noah looked at her. Not surprised, not guarded, just waiting. "You found out," he said. She nodded. "I didn't mean to. I know. I just had to understand." He stepped aside silently. Inside, Lily ran to her. Olivia knelt to hug her, grounding herself. Over her head, she heard Noah's voice. "I'm not hiding from the world," he said quietly. "Just from the version of me that used to live in it." She stood slowly, eyes locking with his. "I didn't come here for your secrets." "Then why did you stay?" She looked at Lily, now curled up beside the puzzle box. "For her," she whispered. Then after a pause, "And maybe because I forgot what it felt like to be seen." Noah didn't answer, but in the kitchen that night, while Olivia helped herself to water, she found something on the fridge. A drawing. 3 figures again, Olivia in the middle. And this time, above the picture, written in crayon letters, "My favorite person came back." Chapter 5, The Man Who Walked Away. The house was quieter than usual. Lily was with the neighbor's daughter for a play date. The first time Olivia had seen her leave the house without clinging to someone's hand. Noah was sitting at the kitchen table when Olivia arrived, fingers curled around a mug of untouched tea, eyes locked on nothing. She set down a grocery bag with a small smile. "I brought the good peanut butter, the kind that doesn't taste like cardboard." He didn't respond. Not right away. Then, without lifting his gaze, he said, "Do you want to know why I left everything?" Olivia stopped moving. He looked up at her, eyes hollow, voice stripped of all armor. "They said it was a routine surgery, her appendix, 30 minutes in and out. She even laughed when I dropped her off. I kissed her forehead in the parking lot. By the time I got the call, she was already gone." Silence flooded the room. Olivia didn't speak. He continued, slower now, like forcing breath through cracked ribs. "I signed the admission papers. I left her there. I walked out trusting a system I used to run. I was chief of surgery before I became CEO. I knew every protocol. But she coded in recovery, hemorrhaged. It wasn't even negligence, it was just chance." His hand clenched around the mug, the knuckles white. "I spent my life saving people, fixing hearts, building things. But I couldn't keep hers beating." Olivia moved slowly to the chair across from him. She didn't reach for his hand. She didn't say sorry, just looked at him and said, "So you walked away?" Noah nodded. "The board wanted me back 2 weeks later, told me to put on a brave face. Anna's death was a PR tragedy, but fixable. Rebrand it grief as growth." I resigned before the coffee in the boardroom went cold. He exhaled shakily. "I packed Lily's things, sold the penthouse, bought this house no one cared about, no press, no staff, just quiet." They sat like that for a long time. 2 cups of tea growing cold. One truth that felt like a wound finally allowed to bleed. Finally, Olivia whispered, "You didn't fail her, Noah." His jaw tightened. "I didn't save her. You were her husband, not her doctor, and Lily's still here, breathing, laughing, waiting at the window for you." He didn't answer. He just looked toward the hallway where Lily's bedroom door was ajar. That night, after Lily returned and the dinner dishes were drying, Olivia found herself standing in the doorway of the living room, watching Noah read Lily a book. His voice was still a little strained, but steady. When the story ended, Lily curled into his side, fingers gripping his sleeve like a security blanket. Olivia turned to leave quietly, but Noah's voice followed her. "You bring things when you come. Food, stories, yourself. But I never gave you anything back." She looked at him over her shoulder. "You gave me a reason to come." As she walked home, the wind brushed against her skin like a whisper. The streetlights glowed soft. The world, for once, didn't feel as heavy. She had just reached her front step when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Reinstatement forms, sitting on my desk. You made me remember I could still be someone who helps." Chapter 6, The Distance We Choose. She didn't mean to pull away, but something inside her began to tighten, a quiet, creeping fear. At the hospital, her hands still moved with certainty. IVs, vitals, charts. But her eyes blurred more easily. Her heart tugged in directions she couldn't explain. Each time she left Noah's house, she lingered on the porch just a little longer. Each time she arrived, Lily ran into her arms a little faster. And somehow, that terrified her. One night, Olivia sat in her car outside the little white house, the engine still humming. She didn't go in. Instead, she stared at the porch light, at the window where Lily used to wait. And for the first time in weeks, she drove away. She told herself it was to find clarity. Wrote a polite email to her supervisor. A few days off, personal reflection. But the truth was messier. She wasn't just scared of being hurt. She was scared of mattering too much. That night, she didn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, haunted not by nightmares, but by soft things. Lily's laughter when Olivia braided her hair. Noah's voice saying, "You didn't save me, you showed up." The way her name looked, scrawled in crayon, taped to their fridge. 4 days passed. She didn't go back. She answered work calls, smiled through break room chatter. But everything felt distant, like she was performing a role that used to fit, but now chafed. Even the hospital smelled different. Colder, emptier. Then, during her lunch break, her phone buzzed. A notification from Lily's tablet account. The drawing. Stick figures, 3 of them, again. Olivia in the middle, yellow hair brighter this time. Underneath, in clumsy, heartbreaking letters, "I miss you." Her breath caught. A second message came through. This one from Noah. "She thinks you left because of her. She hasn't been sleeping." No emojis, no explanations. Just silence and heartbreak. Olivia didn't respond. Instead, she walked outside and sat by the courtyard fountain. Autumn leaves floated across the water's surface. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I didn't leave because I didn't care. I left because maybe I cared too much." That night, she recorded a story. Just her voice. Soft, slow. Tonight's story is about a brave little fox who thought she was lost. But the truth is, someone had been waiting for her the whole time. No names, no details. But Lily would know. And Olivia knew, so would Noah. On the 5th day, she stopped checking her phone. But the ache didn't leave, it just settled deeper, like a quiet truth. She had walked away not because something felt wrong, but because it felt too right. And she wasn't ready. Chapter 7, Fever at Midnight. It was 12:41 a.m. when the call came. Not a message, not a voice note, a direct call. Olivia's phone lit up in the dark, and without thinking, she answered before the second ring. "Lily's sick." Noah's voice was thin, strained. "Hi, Fever. She's been crying for hours. She keeps asking for you." Olivia was already up, tugging on her hoodie with one hand and slipping into her sneakers with the other. "I'm coming." No questions. No doubt. The porch light was on when she arrived, that same flickering red glow. The front door opened before she even knocked. Noah stood there, wrinkled shirt, barefoot, eyes wild with worry. He didn't say a word, just stepped aside. Lily lay curled on the couch, cheeks flushed, curls damp from sweat. She whimpered until Olivia knelt beside her and gently took her hand. "I came," Olivia whispered. Lily opened her eyes, just barely, and gave the faintest nod. "I knew you would." Noah stood in the doorway, unmoving, until Olivia said gently, "Get me a bowl of water, cold washcloths, thermometer, acetaminophen." He turned, too frantic to speak. Then, a crash in the kitchen. Cupboards slamming, bottles clattering. "Where the hell is the acetaminophen?" Olivia didn't even look up. Cabinet over the fridge, upper right. Silence. Then the soft sound of a bottle being set beside her. No words exchanged, but they were a team again. Hours passed. The fever began to drop. Olivia never left Lily's side. She wiped her forehead, hummed lullabies, whispered stories about foxes and stars. She rubbed her back until the little girl finally drifted into a fitful sleep. Noah hovered in the shadows, pacing, pausing, pacing again, until finally even he sat down at the kitchen table, silent, staring at the wall. Olivia joined him only when Lily's breaths had steadied. She poured herself a glass of water, voice steady but soft. I didn't come back for you. Noah blinked, nodded, accepted it. I know. She leaned against the counter. I came because a child was scared, because I couldn't ignore her voice. Noah didn't defend himself, didn't ask her to stay. He only listened. Then, without speaking, he reached into his coat pocket and slid something across the table toward her. A folded piece of paper. Olivia opened it slowly. New York State Medical Board. Reinstatement application. Her brows lifted, her chest tightened. You're applying to go back? Noah nodded. His voice was quiet. Not as CEO, not in a boardroom, just to help. Again. Somewhere real. He looked up at her. Because of you. She looked at the paper again. Then at the man in front of her, worn, tired, but choosing to rise again. You don't need me for that. No, he said, voice rough but certain. But I wouldn't have remembered I could still be that man if you hadn't come. She didn't speak. Didn't cry. Just sat there, hands folded in her lap, as the storm inside her softened. In the living room, Lily stirred, murmuring in her sleep. Olivia rose without a word and walked back to her. Kneeling beside the couch, she reached for the child's hand. Lily leaned into her touch even in sleep, and Olivia closed her eyes. Maybe she had come back for the child, but maybe, just maybe, there was a part of her that had been waiting to be needed without being used, seen without being claimed, held without being owned. Chapter 8. The Man Who Tried Again. Morning crept in like a whispered apology. Golden light spilled through the curtains, warming the hardwood floors and the fleece blanket wrapped around Lily's sleeping form. Olivia sat beside her still, arms wrapped loosely around her knees, hair falling across her face. She hadn't meant to stay the whole night, but she hadn't been ready to leave either. In the kitchen, Noah moved slower now, no longer frantic, still exhausted, but different. He boiled water, poured it carefully over tea leaves, set 2 mugs down. He didn't ask if she wanted one, he just placed it near her hand. Olivia accepted it silently, the steam softening the tension in her shoulders. I used to think I had to fix everything, he said suddenly, that being strong meant never falling apart. She glanced at him. He didn't look up. I was wrong. He pulled something from a folder on the table. Forms filled out, ID copies clipped. The application's ready. I'm going to the clinic tomorrow, just volunteering, 1 shift a week. Why now, she asked. He looked at her then, really looked, because I don't want Lily growing up thinking hiding is strength. His voice dropped lower. And because someone showed me you don't have to know the whole way back, just the next step. Later that day, Olivia helped Lily make pancakes. The slightly burnt, uneven kind. Noah cleaned up without being asked. He fixed the squeaky cabinet door, reorganized the medicine shelf. When Olivia teased him about labeling the spice jars alphabetically, he only smiled. First step to recovery, he said. Order. But it wasn't about control anymore. It was about care. The way he swept crumbs from the counter. The way he adjusted the nightlight in Lily's room before bed. The way he asked Olivia, softly, if she'd eaten. Not romantic, not forced. Just presence. Real, earned, steady. That evening, Olivia gathered her things to go. Noah walked her to the door. No expectations, no lingering stares. Just standing there. Thank you, he said. For what? For giving me a reason to walk back toward the world. She hesitated, then, without overthinking, reached out and gently smoothed a wrinkle in his shirt near the collar. Don't wait for the world to be safe, she whispered. Just let it be true. He didn't speak again. He didn't need to. Back at her apartment, Olivia found the note Lily had left in her coat pocket. Folded in half, drawn in purple crayon. A tiny heart between 3 stick figures. And underneath, in uneven letters, our forever team. She stared at it for a long time, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was pretending to be whole. She simply was. Chapter 9. Lily's Speech. The community center buzzed with warmth and noise. Rows of folding chairs, parents balancing toddlers on their knees, laughter echoing between paper banners. The annual Hearts in Service award ceremony had never been glamorous, Just local names and quiet gestures being recognized. Olivia hadn't planned to come. She preferred hospital halls and quiet kitchens to microphones and applause. But Noah had gently insisted, his words soft but steady. Just show up, you don't have to stay long. She'd smiled, nodded. What she hadn't expected was her name on the program. She sat in the back, hair tucked behind her ears, fingers folded tight in her lap. The MC called out categories. The audience clapped politely. And then, this year's Community Health Award goes to someone who didn't ask for attention, but earned it with every act of quiet bravery. Her name was called. She froze, started to rise. But then, a small figure stepped onto the stage. Lily, dressed in a white blouse and blue skirt, hair tied up in a wobbly ponytail, clinging nervously to a note in her hand. The microphone came up to her nose. A staff member lowered it gently. She took a breath and began. Hi, my name is Lily Campbell. I'm 5. I used to be really scared all the time, especially at night, especially when my daddy got sick. But then I called the wrong number, and someone came anyway. She wasn't my mom, but she stayed. The room fell silent. No one moved. Even the children fidgeting moments ago now stared forward. She didn't have to, but she read me stories and taught me how to check Daddy's temperature and made pancakes that were kinda burned. Lily looked up, scanning the crowd. Her eyes found Olivia, and for the first time, Olivia saw herself through Matur's eyes. Not as tired, not as broken, but as brave. Lily's voice shook slightly as she read the last line. She's not my mom, but she's who I want to be when I grow up. Thunderous applause broke the stillness. But Olivia didn't hear it. She couldn't. Her throat had closed, and tears blurred her vision. She hadn't realized Noah had moved beside her until she felt his hand slide into hers, warm, steady. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His fingers laced with hers gently, like a quiet vow. Olivia looked at him through wet lashes. He smiled, just slightly, his eyes saying, "This is real." Later that night, after the ceremony ended and Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat, Olivia sat with Noah on the back porch of his home. The sky stretched overhead, quiet and open. She held a cup of tea between her palms, steam curling toward the stars. Noah leaned back against the railing. She didn't even tell me she was going to speak. Olivia smiled. Because she wasn't speaking for you, she was speaking as herself. They fell into silence. But it wasn't awkward, it was full. You know, he said softly, I haven't felt this steady in a long time. She turned to him. Because of Lily? He shook his head. Because of both of you? In the kitchen later, she found another drawing, taped to the fridge. This one was different. 3 figures again. But this time, there were no stick arms. Each's hearts. 3 red hearts drawn across 3 chests. And written in careful letters above them. Oh, Chapter 10. Answered at 3:00 a.m. The backyard was quiet. Afternoon sun slipped through the maple tree, casting soft shadows across the grass. A breeze whispered through the leaves. The scent of chamomile and sugar cookies drifted from the open kitchen window. Lily ran barefoot across the yard, laughing as she tried to catch the wind with her arms outstretched. Her blonde curls bounced with every step. Olivia sat on a checkered blanket, tea in hand, cross-legged, watching her and smiling without realizing it. Noah sat a few feet away on the old wooden bench, book open but forgotten in his lap. His eyes stayed on them, not the pages. It had been a year since that wrong call at 3:00 a.m., since a little girl dialed a number that wasn't her mother's, and found someone who came anyway. Since then, everything had changed, but not all at once. It happened the way healing always does. 1 cup of tea, 1 bedtime story, 1 deep breath taken beside someone who finally stayed. Lily flopped down on the blanket beside Olivia, laughing, then reached for Noah's phone and pressed it to her ear. "Hello?" she said, mimicking a serious tone. "Is this the nurse lady? My dad forgot his meds again." Olivia laughed, leaning over to poke her side. Lily squealed and curled into her lap. "Dad," she said suddenly turning to Noah, "if someone calls the wrong number again, what should I say?" Noah looked at her, eyes soft. "Tell them." He paused and smiled. They called exactly who they needed. Later, when Lily had gone inside to color, Noah stood and walked toward Olivia. He knelt beside her, quiet, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. Plain, smooth, familiar. He didn't open it at first, just placed it in her hand. "I didn't know how to say this," he said softly, "but I've been holding this for a while now." Olivia's fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside, a silver ring. No diamonds, no shine. Just a single engraving along the inside curve. Answered at 3:00 p.m. She looked up, eyes wide, throat tight. Noah's voice shook, but his eyes didn't waver. "I never planned to love again. I didn't think I could. But that night, when you showed up, tired and unsure, and still came through the rain, you didn't just save my life. You stepped into it." Olivia didn't speak. She didn't need to. Instead, she leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. Noah exhaled, as if something he'd been carrying alone had finally been set down. And then, from behind them, a group hug. Lily squealed, running toward them, arms outstretched. "Forever team." They all collapsed into one tangled embrace, laughter wrapped in tears, hearts wrapped in arms. They didn't need a ceremony. They didn't need the world's approval. They already were a family, and all it had taken was one wrong number. As the sun dipped behind the rooftops and golden light spilled over their quiet yard, Olivia closed her eyes and whispered, "If I had to answer that call all over again, I would. 1,000 times. There are moments in life that don't announce themselves. They don't come dressed as destiny. They don't arrive with fireworks or flowers. Sometimes, they come at 3:00 a.m. with a trembling voice, from a number you've never seen. And if you're tired, if you're hurting, you might be tempted to silence it, to roll over, to say, 'Not tonight.' But sometimes, the call that wasn't meant for you is exactly the one you were meant to answer." Olivia didn't show up because she was brave. She showed up because something in her broke wide open when she heard a child afraid. And in that break, the light got in. She found a home she wasn't looking for. She helped a man who had stopped believing he could still help anyone. She loved a little girl who taught her what it meant to stay. Not because she had to, not because it was easy, but because somewhere deep inside, she remembered what it felt like to be alone. And she chose differently. 1 year later, the world kept spinning. The city never stopped rushing. But in one little white house, the one with the black fence and flickering red porch light, time slowed. A girl laughed freely. A man breathed deeper. And a woman finally chose to stay. So, if this story found you tonight, if it stirred something buried or whispered something you hadn't said aloud yet, just know, you're not forgotten. You're not too late. You're not invisible. Sometimes it only takes one answer to change everything. If this story touched you, the next one goes even deeper. We'll be here with more stories that don't just entertain, but stay with you long after the last word. Subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories, and maybe the next wrong number will be the beginning of your everything right. See you there.